Good morning, everybody. It's Doc. Today is Monday, June 1st. Wow, we're already to June. The end is near! Exclamation point. We're going to finish out this odd year as best we can, and I thank you so much for tuning in each day to listen to some great music and learn something about music as well. Hey, this Thursday, June 4th, I am inviting everyone to come out to the band room to drop off music, all your music from the spring, and perhaps a few instruments, and pick up instruments for marching band and gather anything else you want, music and materials. Mr. Mayer said the school will be open between 9 and 3. And you're going to have to read his instructions or listen to them in terms of which entrance to use and whether you need to wear a mask or something like that. But I'd love to see you. I plan to be there the entire time. So it'd be kind of nice to reconnect. So that's the biggest announcement I have for you. Other than please get those marching band applications in. They're due on the 19th of this month. But please do not put those off. Thank you for those of you that have put your applications in for captains and section leaders and our drum major. I will be getting with you probably by the end of this week in terms of some results. I'll contact with you individually if I have a few questions. So thank you very much. Today and tomorrow, we are going to listen to and study and discuss a neat little work. And I entitled today's little Doc Talk, Toy Story and Igor Stravinsky's Petrushka. Yeah, most of you have seen Pixar Disney's Toy Story, the movies in which those toys come to life when the adults are not watching. Well, this is not a new concept. This has been a part of our folklore for centuries. And about 100 years ago, a Russian composer by the name of Igor Stravinsky wrote a ballet about puppets that come to life. And I thought this would be a dear story to share with you. The ballet was the music was put right into sort of a concert format, so it is often enjoyed without the ballet, just in concert. And that's what we're going to study. Now, Stravinsky was like Beethoven. He opened up the doors of what we can do musically in the 20th century, just as Beethoven did it in the 19th century. You know, Beethoven was writing the Third Symphony, the Eroica, and the Fifth Symphony, and his passion and energy that he put into the music, Stravinsky kind of did the same thing and introduced us to all the other things that we can do with music, such as tremendous rhythmic invention. Wow, did Stravinsky open our ears. The use of different scales, not just major and minor, and interesting ways to write for instruments in their extreme registers, for example. And yet he also used a lot of folk music, Russian folk music, that and it's still sort of tonal, so the music still has an attractiveness to it, but yet it's very refreshingly different in sound, and perhaps a little more realistic when you come to telling stories like about puppets. All right, now this ballet, which is really just sort of a movie, but it's dance too. Let me tell you this story about Petrushka. Petrushka means Peter. It translates to the name Peter in Russia. All right, so here's what happens. At a fair in St. Petersburg, Russia, little carnival, there's an old magician who has 3 puppets. And in front of everybody's eyes, with the playing of his little flute, he makes those puppets, brings them to life, and they dance around. Oh my gosh, that's pretty cool, right? Well, after the show's over, the puppets in their little tents, in their little rooms in their tents, are still alive. And the Petrushka, is sort of a homely looking, awkward, kind of immature puppet. And then there's the ballerina, oh, so beautiful, her. And then there's the Moor, the prince from the Middle Eastern countries, who's handsome and just a very attractive person, right? Well, the way the story goes, Petrushka falls in love with the ballerina, right? But the ballerina doesn't want anything to do with Petrushka because Petrushka is kind of immature and lanky and kind of awkward, right? She falls for the Moor. Yeah. Petrushka, seeing that love relationship happening, is very upset, very despondent. And Petrushka keeps invading the Moor's and the ballerina's space. And the Moor finally says, I've had it with you. And he runs after Petrushka and kills him. Kind of breaks his head. Huh. And the magician, finding the broken Petrushka on the ground, picks him up and tosses him aside. Well, at the very end of the ballet, the ghost of Petrushka is seen above the theater, heckling the magician and thumbing his nose at him, as if to say, why did you bring me alive to suffer such torment? It might be a ballet about bullying or just the underdog that doesn't quite get the girl. At any rate, it's a very colorful story, and the music is absolutely it's sparkling and interesting, and there's so many different sounds, and we're going to go through it. It's in 4 parts. Think of it as a symphony, right? 4 movements of a symphony. This ballet is in 4, they call it tableaus, acts. And we're going to go through the first 2 acts today, and then we'll do the second 2 acts or tableau tomorrow and show you how it goes. I think once you get into it, you're going to kind of dig it. It's different. It was written in, 1911? And so it's really the first real sounds of the 20th century coming to life, and we'll try to address that as we go. All right, so the music begins with the fair. Imagine the State Fair, North Carolina, and there's a drone above it, and it's panning all the people and the hustle and bustle and the rides and the little game centers and the food and everything like that. Let's start with the hustle and bustle of they call it the Shrovetide Fair. Petrushka, the beginning. That little part in the flute, ba-bum, 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 I call that the fair motif. There it is. Ba-bum, ba-bum. The dotted rhythm, the little fair motif. Everybody's hustling and bustling. Okay, so it gets more and more hustly and bustly, right? It's kind of exciting. I don't know if you were able to tell in that, but as the music went on, you heard in the upper woodwinds sort of a rhythm that didn't quite go with the lower rhythms. And I want to show you something in the score, because this is really innovative for Stravinsky. If you look at the score, the upper woodwind parts are in 7/8. That's 7/8 notes in a measure. But the lower parts are in 3/4. That will not line up. The 3/4 has 6/8 notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and the 7/8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, has 7/8 notes. The only way you can play that is that the conductor beats the 3/4, and the 7/8 musicians play their rhythm at a little quicker tempo. It's the only way they can do it. They're on their own. The conductor doesn't worry about them. But it works because there's a rest in the 7/8 parts right on one, so they can make sure they hear where the downbeat is. I want you to listen to that section again. It's incredibly rhythmically innovated. You can call it a polyrhythm, but it's just cool. And again, Stravinsky thought about this and said, hey, I think I can do this. Here it is. See, the conductor is just beating the 3/4 time or the 2/4. And they're on their own. Wow. That is really cool. And again, at the beginning of the 20th century, Stravinsky said, you can do two rhythms at the same time, two speeds at the same time, and we can make it work. It takes a lot of practice, but you can make that work. Just really cool. Okay, and then he erupts into a Russian folk song that everybody's playing very in the pocket, bum, 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 which is so refreshing after that hustle and bustle. And what you're going to notice is as this Russian folk song goes on, the crowd motif, I call that 7/8 thing, the crowd motif, keeps interjecting as if you're looking at maybe a group of people doing a Russian folk song, and then all of a sudden you pan back to the crowd and the hustle and bustle of the crowd and that. So let's listen to a little bit of this Russian folk song. Everybody's doing the same thing, basically. There it is again. There it is. That's 7/8. There's the fair motif from the beginning. And then it goes back and forth to that other section. Okay? Next happens, we switch over in the fair to an organ grinder. You know what an organ grinder is? It's a guy or gal with a little portable organ on wheels. And he kind of turns it or grinds it, and it makes beautiful little sounds. This is the theme of the organ grinder. Here we go. Oh, they pan back to everybody, they went back to the fair. Just a quick little glimpse for that organ grinder, but he's coming back. Here he comes. You'll notice Stravinsky uses the clarinets as perhaps the main instrument to introduce themes. Oh, another theme from the organ grinder. This is actually a little French folk tune that Stravinsky heard outside his window while he was writing this in Paris. Listen to what he's doing. He's overlapping that with that hustle bustle theme. Back to the little organ grinder. You can actually see it, like you're drawn into it. It's like a little waltz. Hear those little bells in the background? That's another little tune. Now listen to how he collapses everything on top of this. There's the fair motif. There's the crowd motif. Isn't that cool? You can really kind of sense the hustle and bustle of everything. Stravinsky wanted to create a very realistic, almost like Charles Ives impression of a state fair or a Russian fair. I think that is so amazing what he has done. Well, it's time to get to the puppets, right? I mean, we've been talking about the fair. Where's the puppets? All of a sudden now we're going to pan to a little theater, and there's an old magician, and he has 3 puppets. And what he's going to do is he's going to play a little flute, and he's going to bring those puppets to life. Let's listen to this music. It starts out by this it starts out with drums announcing the theater is about to begin. And you get this old man coming out, and his melody is sort of a chromatically descending melody, as though he's kind of stooped, right? And then you'll hear him playing his flute in a very conventional way with little E flat and B flat 7 arpeggios. nothing, he's an old man, old music, right? And then there's a very ominous sound as he's kind of bringing these stringed puppets on strings to life. So let's listen to it. It's kind of cool how Stravinsky does this with all his colors. There's the drums announcing the magic show. Here he comes, the old magician. You can almost see this in Toy Story. He's kind of stooping, kind of shuffling up to the stage with his puppets. You know how magical that is with the harps? He uses those instruments, those wooden instruments, to denote that very hollow. Now the magician is playing his flute. Hear how that music sounds so tonal. It sounds so normal. He's an old guy. He only knows how to play old music, not Stravinsky music. So here, Stravinsky is marrying old sounds with new sounds. Oh God, I love this section, the air of mystery. Now he's going to bring these puppets to life, each three of them, with three little flute figures. 1, 2, 3. There it is. And they're to life. Boop, boop. Boop, boop. Boop, boop. The puppets are alive. And guess what they get to do when they're alive? They dance. Let's have the puppets dance. Very next section. The music's a little stiff to denote these little lanky puppets on strings dancing around. You'll also note the use of the percussion, the xylophone. You can see these little puppets just jiggling around the stage. And it kind of continues on all the way, and it finishes the first act sort of like that. Okay? All right. Second act, or tableau. Now we move inside the back rooms of the theater, or back rooms of the tent. The show's over, and the magician walks away, and the three puppets are left kind of on their own, in their own little rooms. Okay? And so tableau 2 takes place in Petrushka's room. All right? And what we're going to see is Petrushka kind of realizing who he is. It's kind of like, wow, look at me. I'm a puppet. Hey, look at me. And, just imagine him as this immature little crackerjack of a guy. And let's listen to a little bit of his theme, which is what we're going to call the Petrushka motif or the Petrushka chord. And we're going to spend just a moment looking at this. So we're going to move it ahead to the second scene. And this is where Petrushka is alone, and he's kind of discovering, who am I? Let's find it out. All right, now listen to the clarinets. That was it. Let's listen to it again. It's that do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, very spooky sounding arpeggio, right? Let's listen to it again. I don't want you to miss it. Sorry, I want to get it just right for you. No, come on. Let me have this. All right, here we go. That's it. Okay, now I want you to talk about another innovation of Stravinsky's. Okay, remember I told you before that he liked to use different scales. All right. So, up to Stravinsky's time, in the 1700s, 1800s, we had the major scale and the minor scale. All that's well and good. But Stravinsky thought, well, humans made the major minor scale. Can't humans make other scales? Plus, there was a big interest in, remember about Debussy, music of the East. Well, Stravinsky started toying with, because he always composed at the piano, he always composed with a scale made up of whole steps and half steps, alternating. All right? And in this one, we're going to go half step, whole, half, whole, half. And it creates an 8-note scale. Listen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we repeat the C. It's got sort of an exotic sound, right? But I'll tell you what's also really cool about that scale, which we call, for 8, octatonic. There it is, the octatonic scale. There you go. C, C sharp, whole step, D sharp, E, whole step, F sharp, G, whole step, A sharp, and then repeat C. In that octatonic scale, you have a C triad, C, E, G, C major, and you also have an F sharp triad, F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp. It's kind of like an inversion. So you have C major and F sharp major triads, which are a tritone apart. The distance between C and F sharp is an augmented fourth or a diminished fifth. F sharp is right in the very middle of the octave between C and C. That creates a tremendously dissonant but colorful sound. I'm going to play it for you. Okay? Forgive me, I'm going to see if I can do it this way. All right? So, C is, F sharp is, and you put them together. Wow. And that's the Petrushka chord. C against an F sharp. And if you listen to the little parts of Petrushka and listen to how he comes to life, that little triad that they're playing, one clarinet is playing C major, and one clarinet is playing an F sharp. Put them together. I almost got it for you. Let me see if I can do it again. F sharp, C, and that's the Petrushka chord. That is a famous chord in music. Everybody refers to that. And every time you hear that little arpeggio, you know that's Petrushka. Now, why do you think he wrote it so dissonant? Well, probably because Petrushka's an awkward little puppet. He's kind of like, he's a human, but a puppet, and he's kind of awkward and gangly and immature. And I think Stravinsky was interested in those exotic sounds. Now, the music goes on, and you'll hear the piano, and the right hand is in C, no flats, no sharps, and the left hand's in F sharp major, 6 sharps. And again, it gives you this colorful, chaotic sound that's Petrushka's immaturity just kind of bopping all over. Let's give it a little listen. Let's continue on and give it a little Petrushka section here. There's Petrushka bopping all over the place. That's all Petrushka. Anytime you hear an arpeggio like that, that's Petrushka. The next section is quieter and dreamier. This is Petrushka thinking about the ballerina and thinking, I'm really in love with you. You're so beautiful. But he doesn't know how to express himself. He kind of gets all gushy and makes kind of a fool out of himself. See? And as we go on, let's go on just a little bit with the same kind of idea. Petrushka's all over himself, gushing in love with this ballerina, and quite honestly scaring her. The ballerina storms out of the room, wanting nothing to do with Petrushka, and Petrushka grieves. He's crying. What did I do? She went away from me. And that's how the tableau ends. So, tomorrow we'll look at tableau number 3 and 4 with you and see how this Toy Story turns out, right? Now, I've given you some assignments. One is to listen to the first 2 tableaus. They're not really that long. The whole thing is like 30 minutes long. So we're looking at about 15 minutes or so of music. Just so cool and colorful. But wait, there's more. I give you a score that you can even follow, but you can watch the actual ballet, the story, the movie. It's only 30-some minutes long. I've given you a link for that. Watch it. They show you the fair and the puppets. It's so cool to watch. If you like Toy Story, you're going to like this. And then I have a few video analyses that people wrote. They should give you a video for 15 minutes explaining some of the stuff that I explained to you. And they do a better job in many ways. So watch that too. Petrushka and Stravinsky really turned or set the stage for the 20th century in music. We are still using Stravinsky-like sounds and techniques, the layering techniques of one thing over another, the different scales, different sounds. We're using that to this present day, just like Beethoven set it for the 1800s. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. It's going to stretch your ears a little bit, but hang in there. It's all worth it. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow.